Hello, Maryann.
Hello, how are you, Anna?
Oh.
I'm so glad you're here because it looks like you won't be the only person.
We're real excited to hear your speech today about being a Marine in the 50s. Was that right? In the 50s? Oh, my. Okay. I don't know how to turn this thing off.
The Director of Operations here, and I just would like to thank y'all for coming today to our round bag. We're really excited about having Maryann Fitzpatrick with us, and the other day she came up and was talking to us, and we could have kept her here all day. She's a lot of fun, very fascinating.
I'm born and bred in Boston, and proper little Bostonian ladies do not say to their parents, "Oh, when I graduate from high school, I'm going to become a Marine." That didn't work really well. My mother, who was about this tall, as we used to say, standing or laying down, she said, absolutely not. And the poor recruiter that came up to the door was quickly escorted off the premises, let's put it that way. And I kept going back and going back. Really, this was something that I wanted to do. I'm the only girl in our family who's been born for ages. And I broke the mold when I had my children. I ended up with one daughter. And finally, it happened to be a Sunday, and we were going to church, and we came home, and I walked into the dining room, and here is a big trunk and suitcases. And I said, "Who's going someplace?" And my brothers turned around and started laughing, and they said, "You are. You're going to college." My mother had enrolled me, signed up for all the classes and everything. Remember, I said she's this big, but she was mighty. And so off I went, walking in there and saying, who am I and what am I doing here? But I was going to teach her a lesson. I graduated early, and so I still kept in contact with the various recruiters and everything, and graduated, took a job up in Caribou, Maine. Potato capital of the world, and my degree was in history, but I also had communications, and I was working at a radio station in Caribou, Maine. Had a jazz program, remember, the potato capital of the world, at 2 o'clock in the morning. You can imagine who was listening to me at that time. This is not how I want to spend the rest of my life. Anyway, make a long story short, came back to Boston, and my mom finally said, "You've got some seasoning." And she was so right. If I had gone to Paris Island, straight out of high school, I wouldn't have made it, believe me. Number one, they had to lie and say that I weighed 100 pounds, which I didn't. And, well, to give you an idea, there were 72 of us that started out. But there's a picture up here of our graduation. I think it was like 30-something that finally made it through. When I left Boston, they put us on the train and everything, and I was in charge of the 4 women recruits that were going down, and mainly because I was older and I had a degree. Certainly not because I was, hard charging or anything. And it was kind of funny because when I was going to college, I was right next to, I worked in a restaurant, and it was right next to the Somerset Hotel, which was right outside of Fenway Park. And every day before the game, Ted Williams would come in, and he would get a glass of milk to settle his stomach. And it was really funny because he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he really wasn't the friendliest person in the world. If anybody read anything about Ted Williams, he said, "What do you want to do when you get through college?" And I said, "I'm going to be a Marine." And he just looked down at me and said, "No way." And I said, "Yes, I'm going to be a Marine." And he kept saying, "There's no way. You're not big enough, you're not smart enough, and you're a woman." And so that became part of the thing. I am going to be able to do this. I don't care what Ted Williams says. Besides, I'm a Yankee fan at that point. So anyway, it was something that I really wanted to do. All of my uncles, all of my male cousins, they were all Marines. And they'd come home from World War II, and they'd tell me these stories. And not that I wanted to be a point man and a flamethrower or anything like that, but I did want to have something that I could belong to that meant so much. 1775, Marine Corps started, which I won't be able to be to the parade up here because that's the Marine Corps' birthday. And started in a tavern for some unknown reason, but anyway. So, off I went. We went down to Paris Island, and got off the train in Yemassee, South Carolina. Bet you know where it is. High point of my career, Yemassee, South Carolina. Went off the train, and suddenly, boom, boom, boom. You know, get in here, there was this little restaurant beside the tracks, and we were going to get breakfast. I had grits. You don't get grits in Boston, Massachusetts. So that was my first time with grits. Then the drill instructors came to pick us up. Charming individuals, very loud individuals. They came in and picked us all up, literally threw us on a bus, and down we went to Paris Island. And as we went over the causeway, I thought, now I wanted to do this for a long time. What was wrong with me? It was 4 o'clock in the morning, quiet, strange scents all around. Found out later it was swamp gas. And we jump off the plane, of course they're calling us maggots and a couple of other lovely things. Off we went and stood in the yellow footprints. Any of you there with the Marine Corps, you know what I'm talking about, right outside of receiving. And so then they started to indoctrinate us in the Marine Corps way. And that was an eye-opening. I mean, we had girls who were crying already. Well, kind of, what did you expect? You're going to be a Marine. We were there over Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. If you ever have anyone that you know that wants to go in the Marine Corps, do not send them Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. The only good thing about it is the gnats were dead. You can give your all. You can't be jumping on the planes. You can't do this. You can't do that. You have to make a decision. Yes, I am a woman. Am I going to stay and devote myself to the Marine Corps? That had been my plan. But then you have to say, you've got these children that I have to take care of too. And, but did I regret one instance when I was in Paris? Well, maybe when the thing... No, I loved it. And I still, my buddies, I don't know an awful lot about the women Marines, as you can tell, mainly because I was always attached to squadrons. I was with men all the time. And I loved it. And I still, the ones that are still living, I still hear from them, and, you know, we talk. When my brother was killed in Vietnam, I mean, the first phone calls that I had were from men that I had been stationed with. The Marine Corps is just, it's a little fraternity. And I used to say, you know, I could sneeze in California and someone over in North Carolina would say Gesundheit. Very close. And I will always treasure that and the feelings that I had for the men that I served with. They were always above board. You can't say enough about them. They're, as you know, even today they're giving their lives. I help out with the Wounded Warriors program, and they're kids. And when I go over to Shepherd Center and I see these kids, it just breaks my heart. I have to go sit in the car, and they still have that fight in them. There was one young Lance Corporal. He'd only been married 3 months when he went overseas, and he came back damaged. Let's just put it that way. And I said to him one day, and I said, what can I do? I said, you know, I bring you peanut butter cookies. You know, what do you want more than anything else? You know, if I can move heaven and earth. And he said, I want to be with my wife. Well, she comes, you know, about every other day. We've put her up in a hotel. He said, no, I want to be a man. I want to be with my wife. And by gosh, I went over to the Marriott Marquis and I said, I want a room. I want it for the weekend. I want it for this young couple. And they moved heaven and earth. They gave him a room. They gave him food. They gave him carte blanche. And when I saw him the next Monday, I said, how are you? He had a glow about him. His eyes. And he said, I'm going to be okay. He said, I could be with my wife. And that was the one thing he was worried. 20 years old. And then I saw her later, and I said, huh? She said, he's going to be okay. Yes. So keep all of our service people in your minds and hearts. this has been a very difficult time for them. What I went through in the 50s, 60s, piece of cake. Well, except for, again, you know, when the snake was after me or when I got hit.